Hello and welcome to another flight review. This time we are flying American Airlines Flagship First Class from London Heathrow to Dallas Fort Worth. We just came off of British Airways Business Class from Nairobi, Kenya to London Heathrow. Please watch the other video if you have not done so already. We've arrived in Terminal 5, so because we've arrived in Terminal 5, we have to take the bus transfer over to Terminal 3. It was a very packed day this morning in London Heathrow, but luckily enough, by the time we arrived at the bus gate, the bus was already there. It takes about 15 minutes to get from Terminal 5 to Terminal 3 this morning. As we're heading over to Terminal 3, I'll preface this review by saying I tend to try not to be negative. It's an absolute privilege and an honor to be able to do any amount of traveling, nonetheless some of the great flights that I've had the privilege to explore. But at the same time, I think being honest about my experience is important because you may have to decide whether you want to upgrade or if you want to spend your hard-earned points on a certain experience. I'll explain later in the video how I booked this itinerary, how I upgraded it, and how I was able to fly Flagship first. But now that we're in Terminal 3, let's take a look at the lounge. Terminal 3 surprisingly has many great lounges if you're flying oneworld. Here's the Qantas business class that we just walked. It's a beautiful location. But because we were flying Flagship first, we have access to 3 different lounges. You have Cathay Pacific First Class Lounge, you have American Airlines First Class Lounge, and you have British Airways. It's a small Concorde room within their First Class section for Emerald members. My preference here, as a oneworld Emerald, I've had the honor of being able to go to all these lounges. Cathay Pacific honestly has one of the best lounges here at London Heathrow that's not British Airways. Here's their shower suites, and I would definitely recommend coming here if you need to go to the bathroom or shower. They just have a great size, great amenities, and the lounge itself is just pretty stunning. So I came here, I took a lovely shower this morning after my 10-hour flight from Nairobi, Kenya. After getting all freshened up, I went outside and the lounge was actually pretty busy, especially the first class section. If you do have the time, I would sit down and enjoy on-demand dining in Cathay Pacific's first class lounge, but this time, because I'm actually flying on a paid first class ticket instead of using my oneworld Emerald privileges, I decided to walk down to the very quiet and exclusive, I want to say Concorde room, but technically it's not the Concorde room. But this part of the lounge is only accessible if you're on a paid first class ticket, either for British Airways or American Airlines. I'm not sure about the other oneworld carriers, but because I'm flying first class on American Airlines, I was granted access. It's a very stunning portion of the lounge. It has a la carte dining, and there were only 3 people in here the whole time, while the other part of the lounge for oneworld Emerald members was pretty busy. I just got the English breakfast, vegetarian style, and the service was lovely. The food was great, and fortunate enough, I just had just enough time to get this breakfast before heading to our American Airlines 777-300ER on our way to Dallas Fort Worth. If you're a oneworld Emerald member, you are able to access the other part of the lounge. There were some dishes, breakfast dishes that were available. It was a pretty good offering, to be honest with you, just less private than the first class Concorde version of the lounge. I will say I did not see the shower suites in here, but knowing what the shower suites look like in Terminal 5, the bathroom was not all that surprising. I would not come here if you want to freshen up. It kind of was giving hospital room vibes. I would definitely go to either Cathay Pacific or Qantas lounge. To be fair, American Airlines also has its own lounge, but I just prefer the other two as I'm a big fan of Qantas, and Cathay Pacific just has a stunning lounge. Unlike the beautiful jet bridges in Nairobi, Kenya, there are no shots of our aircraft. This is not one of the glass jet bridges at Heathrow. But I was lucky enough to be one of the first aboard in the first class section, and so we have a pretty empty first class before all 8 passengers came aboard. So again, I'll preface any type of criticism by saying it's an absolute honor to fly first class. Fortunately, I've been able to use my miles and points or be able to upgrade and fly many different variations of the One World carriers. But American Airlines has been very clear in their intentions to phase this out. They are not interested in keeping a first class just because it's so hard to differentiate between the business and first class. If you look at some of these amenities, you have Casper bedding, you have a nice duvet, extra pillows and a blanket, great headphones, and just one of the nicest features in a airplane seat. You're able to swivel the seat and look out the window as a desk. But besides that, it's just hard to differentiate between this and a business class. And if you actually look at my American Airlines business class flight that will be posted to the channel later, you'll see that these amenities are provided for business class for their ultra long haul flights from Philadelphia to Doha. So, although that elevates the business class offering, there's really not more that American can do to differentiate between first and business class, which is why I think they phased it out and will no longer be on their planes as they retrofit some of these planes and new planes come into their fleet. At the same time, I think American Airlines deserves some credit, being the last airline of the major 3 carriers here in the United States that actually has an international first class. Delta abandoned it and so did United, but American Airlines at least is trying. As we look at this seat and we're getting settled in, it's just a very spacious seat. There's not as much privacy, but I did not find that to be a huge issue. You had enough space that you didn't feel very open. This is the desk feature that I was talking about. You're able to swivel your seat a full 45 degrees and sit towards the window and use it as a desk. So it's an absolute awesome feature. now that we're up in the air, service has started. It starts with a nice hot towel. The first class section is all full. There are 8 passengers total, and we have 2 dedicated flight attendants for the first class cabin. They were very nice and very American charm, if you will. But I will preface by saying this meal service really was disappointing. I think American Airlines could make major improvements to their meal service, especially considering that it's a first class flight. I understand that the intention is to retire this, but they're currently selling this. Whether you are paying with points, whether you have upgraded, or whether you're paying full out for the fare, it's not really an acceptable offering to give to people. The service started with nice warm nuts and olives when your choice of a drink. And this was an asparagus starter, which was actually really tasty, and another side salad as well. Very well presented for the starter, but the issue comes with the main. So although I was seated in seat 1A, I was the first person aboard. When the flight attendant came around to take my order, she told me that my first option, which was the beef, was sold out. And considering there's only 7 other passengers in this cabin, I don't know if everyone on the plane is a concierge key member, including the toddler, but I just don't think that this could be acceptable on a first class. The other choices just weren't as appealing. I went with the chicken option, and to be honest with you, it was not edible. I didn't even eat it. I don't know if it just was not cooked the way in which I would hoped it would be cooked, or I just was not feeling chicken. It was just very disappointing, and to consider that this is a first class offering, to run out of a popular main is just kind of frustrating, especially considering that with other airlines in their business class this is not a problem. To be fair, in my other business class flights with American Airlines, they also tended to run out of main, so I really think they're trying to push heavy to pre-order, and you could pre-order 30 days before your flight. So to be fair to American Airlines, you are able to pre-order and guarantee your selection, but still, I think for a first class flight, it really should not be that kind of service. The lunch service concluded with a classic American Airlines ice cream sundae. Let's take a look at the entertainment here on American Airlines 777 first class. The TV is slightly outdated, but it does pull out from here. American Airlines has a wide selection of TV shows and movies. I don't think they're as great as British Airways in my opinion, but they're very close, and they're one of the best flying in the skies. You have TVs, new releases, and TV shows with many series and seasons. So considering this is a first class flight, the bed was actually very comfortable. You get a very thick bedding from Casper, and you get a nice duvet. You have tons of space, and the armrest does go down. Your feet are not constricted in bed mode at all, and you just have a very great amount of overall space to sleep or relax during your flight. You do get 2 pillows, and that is one thing that differentiates from business class. About 90 minutes prior to landing in Dallas, the second meal service was started. It was just some type of salad, and to be honest with you, just was not very impressive at all. It ended with a hot cookie, but the food service for both meals left a lot to be desired, and I really think that American Airlines can improve their catering. So after about 9 to 10 hours in the air, we have started our final descent into Dallas, and let's wrap up this review. Again, I really don't like to be negative, but I have to be honest and transparent. First, how did I book this? If you watched the British Airways video, I had found a great deal through American Airlines, where you could fly business class from Nairobi, Kenya, all the way to the United States, round trip for about $1,500, which was an absolutely amazing price. So when I booked this leg, I booked it on American Airlines specifically for the 777-300ER, because some of the 777-200s have the backwards and forwards facing seats, which can be quite odd and awkward. But since I was on the 777-300, American Airlines had an upgrade offer in the app that basically said I can move from business class to first class for an upgrade fee of $600. This $600 price seems pretty standard. I think initially it was like maybe $680, and then it dropped down to about $600. And from what I've seen, it's kind of a flat price that American Airlines offers if you are booked in a paid business class ticket, that you could upgrade to first for $600. And that's the reason I upgraded this flight. I have never flown American Airlines first class. I knew it was slightly underwhelming compared to, say, British Airways, Qantas, or Qatar, but at the same time, I actually think it's not that far behind. I think British Airways has the best the best first class out of all of the carriers. Then I would say probably Qantas, and then American Airlines and Qatar are pretty tied, believe it or not, as the A380 seat is not as comfortable as the videos make it seem for Qatar Airways. Considering American Airlines is phasing this product out relatively soon, it was very important for me to at least try it one time before it becomes the last first class no longer offered by any of the major 3 airlines here in the United States. And so though I don't regret upgrading for $600, will I do it again if the opportunity presented itself? Truly, I wouldn't. I don't think it's worth the $600, primarily because just the food was pretty disappointing. I think that American Airlines can improve that heavily, and it was not big of a differentiator from their business class food. At the same time, the service was really great. We had 2 flight attendants for 8 passengers, but we had 2 bathrooms for 8 first class passengers, so that part of the hard product was actually pretty great, and the soft product in terms of the service was great as well. And the flight attendant was very apologetic about being out of first options, and I could tell that they weren't very pleased that American had put them in that position. At the same time, as a traveler, I should have pre-ordered, and things like that happen. So overall, very surprising in terms of how great the service was. It could be hit or miss, especially with American carriers. Now, the other part of the first class privileges on American Airlines is you have access to the first class lounge, which is basically their flagship lounge, and then you have access to first class flagship dining. So if you're flying into Miami, or if you're flying into New York, JFK, or if you're flying into Dallas on a paid first class ticket, whether it's American or British Airways, you have access to first class dining. And I will have that at the end of this video, and honestly, that is one reason to consider the upgrade. If you've never flown the first class product, that is a very redeeming quality, because you have an access to an a la carte dining. It's fine dining as you can get into an airport, and it's actually a very impressive part of the experience. So would I do it again for $600? Probably not, but at the same time, I had paid such a cheap business class fare that I was kind of compelled to at least try it and be able to experience one time. With that being said, American Airlines has a pretty awesome business class offering, and I see why they are phasing it out. I think they're upgrading their flagship suites, and will have suites for their business class to come in line with British Airways' club suites, and I think that that's perfect. It's more than acceptable for a lot of the routes that American Airlines does fly. For 7 to 10 hours, that's more than enough. And American Airlines doesn't really do too much long haul. They have a couple routes that maybe are 14 or 15 hours, but they have elevated those business class offerings, as you'll see in my American Airlines business class flight, that make it a very compelling offering as well. So as a paid first class guest, you do have access to flagship dining, and this is a redeeming quality. The service is wonderful, the food offering is wonderful, Here's the menu for the Flagship dining. It's really higher end food offerings for a lounge, and it's extremely exclusive. You cannot get in here with status. You could only get in here for flying first class on American or British Airways operated long haul flight. You still have access to the Flagship lounge, which has showers and other amenities and food offerings as well. But this is specifically only for first class paid passengers. All I have to say is the food was great in here. I tried the bison steak and I tried their Flagship burger. I wasn't able to finish both, but they were just really awesome flavors, and the service was really exceptional. It really redeemed the disappointment in the air with the catering that they had offered. And really would recommend this if you have the opportunity. If you are going to pay for an upgrade or if you are flying first class, I would highly recommend you try to at least connect through or fly out of Dallas, New York JFK, or Miami International Airport, as you'll have access to something similar to this level of service and offering. This about wraps up the flight review. The dessert options were great as well, but all in all, very grateful that I was able to have this opportunity and to experience this. And I definitely appreciate American Airlines still trying their best, especially considering the other big three airlines abandoned first class a long time ago. I'm not sure what American Airlines will end up doing with its Flagship dining. I don't know if we'll keep it around since British Airways is keeping its first class and investing it, but hopefully they're able to save that part of the experience. Now, I know it was a lot more negative than I generally like to be with this review, but head on over to watch the American Airlines business class offering that they have, as I was extremely and pleasantly surprised by that offering in comparison to their first class offering. Thank you for watching this flight review, and I hope you enjoy the stunning views out of American Airlines Flagship Lounge here in Dallas, Fort Worth.